Breaking news, furries on the loose in Amarillo, Texas. I'm Aiden Mattis, and welcome back to the Lore Lodge. If you've been on the internet in the last couple of weeks, you've probably come across the story of a strange, unidentified Amarillo object in, well, Amarillo, Texas. What happened here is that at approximately 1:25 a.m. on May 21st, 2022, a motion-sensing camera captured an image of what appears to be a strange creature just walking along outside of a fence at the Amarillo Zoo. Nobody's really sure what it was, and the city of Amarillo itself is asking the public to help identify this creature. So what could possibly be going on? Well, as you can imagine, that's kind of our specialty here. In order to get to the bottom of that, we did some research, and I found some interesting stuff that led me down a whole rabbit hole and ended up thinking about Skinwalker Ranch again and learned a lot about the Athabascan Native Americans. Anyway, point of the matter is, this is either the most open and shut thing I've ever heard of, or something very, very weird is going on in Amarillo. On June 8th, 2022, the city of Amarillo posted this image on their Twitter account, asking the public to help identify what exactly they saw. Now, as you can see, looking at the image to my left, we've got something of a bipedal humanoid figure. The arms go down to about the knees, a little above the mid-thigh, essentially, which is totally normal for a human being. There's a question about the face. Some people think that the face is facing the camera. Others, myself included, think that it's actually looking straight ahead and the creature is walking along parallel to the fence. To me, what I'm seeing in this image is a person wearing some sort of headdress, maybe also a cloak or some sort of skirt, and just pants? I don't really know. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, let us know in the comments what you think that is. But we are of the opinion here that that is a human or a humanoid thing, that it's not a chupacabra or Sonic the Hedgehog or the Demogorgon or any of the other things that were thrown out, and there were a lot of hot takes. The internet has a lot to say. Somebody suggested it was an alien for reasons that I can't fathom, because it doesn't look anything like an alien. Now, the city of Amarillo said that this is an original unedited image that they got from their security systems at the Amarillo Zoo. I was able to confirm through a reverse image search that this is in fact an original image. It is not something that they reused, but I can't confirm that it's unedited. And because the image itself came from the city of Amarillo, not from somebody else who then confirmed via the city that it was real, it could be that, there's something fishy going on. But we'll let you decide on that account. Michael Kashuba, the director of the Parks and Recreation Department for the city of Amarillo, who oversees everything from parks to zoos, said that we just want to let the city of Amarillo have some fun with this. It's definitely a strange and interesting image. Maybe Amarillo can solve the mystery of our unidentified Amarillo object. Now, to me, that does not really sound like a city official who is concerned about an unidentified creature roaming around the zoo, but rather it sounds like somebody who doesn't really think this is a big deal, or perhaps even thinks it's a hoax. So, what are we dealing with here? Well, it might not be as open and shut as we thought, because if you look at the image of the creature from Amarillo, right here, perhaps, I'm not sure exactly where this image is going to end up, but somewhere in this vicinity, you're going to see that this guy, the image from Amarillo, and this guy, a depiction of a skinwalker from Navajo folklore, look a lot alike. They both have a headdress, they both appear to be shirtless, they both are wearing something that goes down around the lower back and buttocks region, and they're even kind of posed similarly. So, could it be a skinwalker? Could it be somebody trying to pose as a skinwalker? It's hard to tell, but the location does kind of give us an idea. And the reason I say that this isn't a chupacabra, for example, is that the chupacabra originated in Puerto Rico and not on the Mexican border. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because the Puerto Rican chupacabra, which means goat sucker in Spanish, is reptilian in form, not coyote-like, which is kind of what is implied by this image that we see of this thing from Amarillo. So chupacabra is kind of out of the question. Doesn't really look like it would be aliens either, but based on the location and the migratory patterns of the southern Athabascan/Diné peoples, this does fit with where some Athabascan-speaking groups would have lived. And Athabascan-speaking groups include the Navajo and the Apache in the southern regions, because they used to be from Canada and then migrated down. There were a whole bunch of wars. It's a whole big thing. Point is, the Navajo and the Apache and the smaller groups that kind of splintered off from those or followed them down are in that area. They're a little bit to the west, but they're not so far to the west that it would be improbable that you would see one of these people, one of these skinwalkers, one of these witches in Texas. I mean, we're just a very, very short ways from there. So, is it possible that what we're looking at here is a skinwalker? Well, let's consider what it actually has. It appears to be wearing a pelt. It appears to be a human being. It is wandering around at night. All of those do fit. Now, another misconception is that skinwalkers as a tradition are exclusively a magical thing. That this is what we as European Americans and descendants of ancestors from those cultures, when we hear skinwalker, when we hear shapeshifter, we're going to think more along the lines of something that actually transforms physically, morphologically, into another being. But that's not always the case with Native American stories and practices like this. In many cases, for Native Americans, shapeshifting is more of a mental state, where you might don the pelt of an animal or the feathers of a bird, something like that, in order to connect with the spirit of that creature and take on its instincts and its capabilities in a way that will improve your own abilities to do things. So if you are hunting, then you might try and adopt the characteristics of an eagle or a wolf. If you are protecting your family from invasion, you might go for something like a bear. So it's not necessarily a case where every single skinwalker in the world would have to be some sort of legitimately, in our European sense, shape-shifting entity, but rather it could be somebody who, through the use of ritual or substances, puts themselves into a different headspace where they are trying to take on the characteristics of an animal for their own personal gain, which does fit with skinwalker mythology. Of course, you have the belief that skinwalkers are medicine men, people who practice good magic, who then turn and use that magic for evil, for their own personal gain, to victimize their neighbors, things like that. In many of the sources I've read regarding this, which of course are a little bit flimsy because it is a closed practice and you're probably never going to get the full story unless you can go and talk to an actual Native American medicine man or shaman, which is something I would love to do, but it's kind of hard to set up and they're not always receptive to outsiders and are somewhat rightfully distrustful of European Americans when it comes to this kind of thing, because whether it's a land dispute or a issue of us taking one of their stories and modifying it in a way that isn't exactly respectful, they have a history that kind of makes it fair to be suspicious. So it is kind of hard to know exactly what you're dealing with here, but the versions that I've read, a lot of them will imply that a skinwalker, in order to get their powers and get their abilities, one of the final parts of the ritual is to kill somebody close to you, often a family member. And that could be a very real thing, because people can be convinced to do some heinous stuff if they think it's going to make them more powerful. So, in my opinion, personally, looking at the evidence we have, honestly, I think we're looking at something that's just a publicity stunt. But, as I've said before, the reason we wait till the end of the video to give you our conclusions is because we want you to come up with something on your own. So if you've got a different opinion or you agree with me, let us know in the comments, and if you've got anything especially funny to say, perhaps we'll even pin it. Now, if you want to help us out, make sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, click that notification bell, and if you really, really want to support us, check us out on Patreon. You can get a subscription for just $1 a month, which gives you access to some cool behind-the-scenes stuff, some, special projects that we're working on, some writing. We have an episode of Drunk Folklore that has to be edited and posted. That's coming up at some point soon. But if you want to help us out, do that, or become a member here on YouTube. You can also check out our merch shop at thelorelodge.shop, where we have all sorts of different hoodies and t-shirts and mugs and whatnot. We'd really appreciate anything you can give, or at the very least, if you could share this video with a friend, it would mean a lot to us. Once again, I'm Aiden Mattis, and thanks for stopping by the Lore Lodge.